All right, so what's up, everybody? Welcome to Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso. Please, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, hit the subscribe button. To all of you that have recently subscribed to me, we're at 123, I think now. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And Happy New Year to everybody. When I last left off, I told you guys I'm doing the Mob Chronicles, and tonight I'm going to talk about Carmine Persico. Now, what I had planned, and the reason why it's taken some days to do this is because we're fully editing videos now, and we were going to, do the bumper music in the front and everything. And by the time you see this, we still might. The problem is I was going to do a little slideshow with Carmine and different pictures and everything, and then I ran into copyright issues, meaning I wasn't really aware of it because I haven't watched a lot of YouTube, especially when it comes to Carmine Persico, somebody like him. There's so much copyright issues. So we're going to see. Also, I've had people that said, don't edit these videos. Go ahead and leave the little, just do what you're doing right now. The content speaks for itself. Some people said some of those things, some of my episodes were too long. Some people said it didn't matter, blah, blah, blah. I was going to go for the full professional look. Now, in the last hour, my wife was pointing out some real popular YouTube people in Spain that she used to watch. Guy that does a prison show in Spain, and he has the same little format. Doesn't have the paneling on the wall, which the house is going to be remodeled soon, everybody. Some people even told me to keep the paneling, so maybe I'll keep the office room with the paneling. We'll see what it is. Actually, the office might go into an old house, 1910. We might set up a studio in there. We'll see here shortly. Okay, so anyway, if you guys want to give me some feedback, even if you want to send it to my regular Facebook page, Robert Rosso, it's open to the public, and I think it's open to the public. But PM me and tell me what you guys think as far as the video editing, content, whatever. I don't care. Okay, so Carmine Persico. I could give you Carmine's whole background and start when he was a child and tell you the street gangs he was in. What he did was when he was a kid in school, how he dropped out in like the 4th grade, I believe it was. But that's a lot of backstory. And the most important thing is it's been covered so much. It's been so, it's just been so reported on. There's a pretty decent book somebody wrote a few years back, not The Five Families. Somebody else wrote Carmine the Snake Persico, which, by the way, he hated. I know for a fact. They tried to get him to contribute to the book. He wouldn't, of course. And truth be told, so I was with Carmine, and I'll get to that, until 2000, actually January the 19th or 20th of 2020, January 20th, one of my daughter's birthdays, of 11. And he was going to let me write a book about him. I was going to either do an autobiography or I was going to do an autobiography or biography of him, and he was going to, fully let me do it. A lot of things, I really hated when I left. Okay, so let me get into it. Carmine Persico. Carmine Persico was the head of the Gambino crime family. I'm sorry, Gambino. Jesus, he'd shoot me right now on that. the Colombo family. So the New York, you've all heard of the Gambinos, the Colombos, the Bonanos, the Genoveses and Luccheses. So Carmine was the head of the Colombos. Now, his reign was short. Well, okay, so as far as being on the street and being the boss, his reign was short. He didn't have too many years as boss on the street. If you guys ever went back and researched him, and it's on LexisNexis. Maybe someday I will. If you guys ever were able to get a hold of the transcripts of the second commission trial. Now, what had happened was the feds went ahead and put up the RICO statute to go after mob guys. One of the people, was to go after the commission, actually. And the commission is the heads of the 5 families they had meetings, and was called the commission. Again, this is so reported on. I don't feel I should really have to explain it, or should. So Carmine went on trial, and he represented himself during that trial. There's guys that will tell you behind his back that he got everybody convicted. I think he got 100 years. Five. How many sentences? What he ended up getting hit for was 5-year sentences that were stacked. But the judge during that trial really complimented him on the way he represented himself. Only a fool represents yourself, that they say. Maybe that's true, but he really did a pretty good job. If you read the trial transcripts, you can see that he did, and I have read them. It's been many years. Anyway, so on my last video, I was telling you about Jojo Russo. Jojo Russo was Carmine's nephew. And as I said, I took care of Jojo for 17 days while I was at the Federal Medical Center in Butner, North Carolina. That included showering, bathing him, helping him with his toiletry needs and all that stuff. It was, yeah. So one of the people that knew about that was Carmine. So on October the 1st, 2007, I hesitated because the 10th popped up, but the 10th was a birthday. So October the 1st, 2007, they came and got me. I was at Butner in the hospital. They came in to snatch me up. They said that they believed I was having an inappropriate relationship with the staff member, and they transferred me to Butner 1. Now, in the Butner complex, you got the camp, the hospital, the low, FCI 1, FCI 2. FCI 2 is high, medium high, but the complex itself is administrative. Administrative means they can put you anywhere in that complex for any reason that they want to. So generally, guys are they're designated by their points or their backgrounds as far as violence, public safety needs. Excuse me, I'm still sick. In Butner, it doesn't matter what kind of sentence you have. The only place that they couldn't send a lifer is the camp. But I know many lifers that were sent to a low. So I was unable to go to the FCI 2, which is where I should have went. FCI 2, let me back up. So I had to stay in the Butner complex because I had recurring bladder cancer. So technically I was supposed to stay there indefinitely because my cancer reoccurs even to this day. So they wanted to house me at the 2, but I had a separation there. The guy's name was Mike. He was a former dirty white boy. He testified, told on some people. He didn't want to be around me, so he put a separation on me. And I ended up at FCI 1. Didn't really want to be at the FCI 1 when I heard I was going. One of the reasons is because it has a lot of sex offenders, a lot of gang dropouts, a lot of, in prison speak, a lot of pieces of shit. So the less desirables, ex-cops, blah, 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 I can go into it. And there's some good guys there. So population 600, 650. Let's call 50 good. 50 guys that can pass paperwork check, that aren't gang dropouts, that aren't sex offenders, that aren't cops. It's 50 guys. So I was brought from the hospital in a van, so that every day they do a little rotate. They do trips to the hospital from each of the facilities. The campers, I think, get to walk to the hospital sometimes, but the low, the FCI 2 or the deuce they call it, and the FCI 1, every day there's a van or a bus that picks up inmates and brings them to the hospital. Either brings them on day trips or overnight trips and then picks them up the next day and brings them back, whatever. I was on the van. They put me on a van with Joey Testa. Now, the next video I'm going to do, this one might be in 2 parts, I don't know yet, will be about Joey Testa, and I'll get there. So I was with Joey Testa, and I had heard a lot about Joey. I had met him once at the hospital, although he did not remember me. And he found out I was going to the 1. Of course, Joey's like the mayor of every compound he's at, and he wanted to know who I was, all about me. So I was assigned to Georgia Tech. I found out as soon as I got there. In Georgia Tech, the big names in Georgia Tech would be Carmine Persico, Joey Testa, David Mack. David Mack, I'll do one about him one day. Some people, he's alleged to be involved in the murders of Biggie Smalls and Tupac, or both, or one of the, anyway, it's a whole, I'll get there one day. So, excuse me, Georgia Tech has 2 sides. There's one on the left and one on the right. You walk in, you go straight in the middle, and there's two separate sides. I went to the right. So I was actually put 3 cells away from Carmine, and right below Joey Testa. So I was introduced to Carmine, and I got a bald head and the goatee, and I'm a white gang member. And I don't hide who I am in prison. There's a lot of guys that when they get around mob guys or guys that they know don't do drugs or allegedly don't do drugs, that's a different issue about the mob. They'll like pretend that they're somebody that they're not. They'll change their reputation. So I went in there saying, you know, yeah, I didn't say I'm a dope fiend, but yeah, I am who I am. Never tried to hide who I was in prison as far as gang ties and all that stuff. So he was leery of me, straight up. And Joey hesitated. I can see he didn't really care for me in the beginning anyway. And but nevertheless, because he knew my name and he heard that I was taking care of JoJo, brought me to his room and he gave me a hug and he thanked me for it. Said that he heard a lot of good things about me. And then he, you know, kind of said, you know, we want you to sit by us, but, you know, if you're going to do drugs and, you know, he threw it up, you know, he gave me a little lecture about stuff. So Carmine went in the back corner of the unit. And if you come out of his cell around the stairwell, there's a table, and him and Joey, they claim that table. And every morning Joey would wake up, or somebody would wake up, well, the doors didn't lock there. Excuse me, when the lights went on, and you'd throw a sheet or a blanket over the table, that locks it in. It's kind of like, you know, nobody else sit here. And then Joey always kept a box full of, actually it was Carmine's idea, but Joey kept it in his cell, a box of Zuzus and Wham Whams. It's all kinds of food, usually sweets, but that was for guests. And they put that box on top of the table or on the bench side, whatever. But anybody that associated with them, usually afternoon, especially after dinner, would come by, stop by, and they'd offer them a snack. That was just their thing. You know, crackers, cheese, olives, salami. That was pretty much your pizza. That was an every night thing. Back then we had microwaves too. So as the days went on, I got close with Carmine. Now, when I say close, there was an incident while Carmine was serving time at Lompoc where there was a guy who probably looked somewhat like me, meaning the persona of the bald head and the goatee and the gang members type, who Carmine was really close with and he shared a lot of information with. And the guy was an informant and gave the FBI a lot of information. They tried to build a case against Carmine. It did not work. It was called Operation Snake Charmer. The Snake Charmer was an inmate rat. So after that time, Carmine was really reserved of who he told things to. I have heard guys on YouTube, I've heard, I heard somebody recently, but there's 2, 3 on YouTube and in other places talk about how they knew Carmine and he told them a lot of stories. If anybody's telling you that Carmine Persico told them mob stories or intimate details about what he did in the mafia, try to get a fact checker on him. So to be honest, I'm not the guy who went up and asked them, and I said this before, I wasn't infatuated with the mob. And that's not disrespect, and that just means I grew up in a different era. I grew up in a different culture, in a different place. I was a surfer out of the West Coast in California. Mob wasn't they weren't in our backyard, they weren't part of our lives. On the East Coast, it was different. I got a lot of friends that's what they grew up around. So so what I think is, I've read Carmine's PSI. We got that close. I think it was 105 bodies they've got him tagged for. Never asked him about one. Now, did he tell me stuff over time? Yes. Let me back up. So Carmine, after he got sentenced to over 100 years, was originally sent to Lompoc. At Lompoc, he, had it going on, as did a lot of the old timers back in, or a lot of the guys with big names. So they were allowed to grow their own garden. They had the Italian club, and the Italian club just meant it was a clubhouse to hang out where no staff went. In the Italian club, they had spaghetti, dinners. They were allowed wine. They got free world wine once upon a time. They had a band set up. There's going to be some people that were Lompoc that are going to see this video that can. I never was there. This is just what he told me about that. But over the years, like everything else in the feds, that ceased to exist. They took it away from him. So in the feds, you got to remember what they've done is the criminal justice thing goes in. There's errors for it, errors. So, you go 30 years where it's all about reform, and then you'll go 30 years where it's all about get tough on crime. So there was golf courses in the feds once upon a time. Leavenworth had a golf course, Terre Haute, Lompoc. Everybody had, there's golf courses. So Lompoc had golf course, and they allowed all these clubs, allowed inmates to go garden or special inmates like Carmine. And he was there and really comfortable for a long time. Along came the rat who got close to him, had an Operation Snake Charmer, and they didn't net any information to build a case against Carmine. The only thing it did do is Carmine got caught having relations with his attorney, Linda Schaefer. So that was the only thing that happened at Lompoc. From Lompoc, it was closed down. It was turned from a USP or a max or a high to a medium security facility, and they transferred everybody out of there. They originally sent Carmine to Victorville. From Victorville, he was there just a short period of time. Then he was sent to Kentucky, Big Sandy, and he had a tumor on his testicle. And that's how he ended up in Butner. Now, because he was in his early or mid 70s when he first arrived in Butner, which I believe was 2005, they kept him in that complex. Health-wise, he was a tough son of a bitch. He had the testicle issue. He had some heart thing, but and he gained weight as he got older. And but that's he never held back on what he was going to eat as far as oil or butter or snack. There was nothing like that. And anytime he can get his hands on tobacco, he did enjoy his cigarettes. Now, okay. So I became close with Carmine. I got in, and when I mean I got in, there was a point where they finally, they did accept me. And that's when I say they, it was specifically Carmine, Joey Testa, and Daniel Cazzarelli. They call him Cazzi. Cazzi's from New York. The Philadelphia guys, Philadelphia mob, associate of the mob, whatever you want to say. Sorry, Cazzi, I'm not saying you're in the mob. I'm saying they're associate. It's on. Don't get mad because I've read it on the internet. So it was them three, and I ended up selling with Cazzi for a while. Cazzi had to go for a shoulder replacement, so he had to go to the FMC for like 6 months. And one day, out of nowhere, they told Joey Testa to pack up. Now, when Joey Testa packed up, that was just in Georgia Tech. That was just left me and Carmine. Joey Testa ran the white TV, which was the Carmine Joey Testa TV. And that job got, thrust upon me. Really, Carmine says what's on that TV, but we didn't have a remote because I'm younger, or, like Joey would always go and change the channel. I was faced with changing the TV. And I really hated that in the beginning because I've been in so many altercations over the TV. Yeah, just so many, and I just knew I was gonna get into it over that damn TV, and I didn't really want much part of it, but I did. Also, we had our table in the chow. In Butner, guys don't have tables like they do in other prisons. Carmine did. Staff doesn't allow them to. They allowed Carmine to have his own table. So, Cazzarelli leaves, Cazzi leaves, Joey Testa leaves, and it's just me and Carmine. In March of 2008, I'm with Carmine, and all of a sudden they come up to him and they say, Persico, go pack your bags. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, you're leaving. I said, leaving. He said, leaving where? And he said, you're going to Petersburg. Excuse me. Petersburg, West Virginia. Now, what was going on in Petersburg? March 2008. They opened up a sex offenders program. And these are the worst of the worst sex offenders. These are guys who rape children, who do really bad. This isn't just for any sex offender. This is bad sexual stuff. Carmine, just said it's a mistake, and they weren't taking him out that day. And finally that night he told me, he said, look, I don't want you to think I'm a sex offender. Here's the deal. And he has his PSI. What happened was I believe it was in the 50s, maybe the 50s. Carmine and 3, 4, 5 other guys had got a rape case against a female. So 5 guys got a rape case out of an incident that took place one night. So he pled guilty to the charge, but they didn't serve any time. But what the Bureau of Prisons was doing was just popping anybody with rape cases, it was actual rape. And anybody that, they had him like an algorithm, I guess you'd say. So Carmine came up as a sex offender, even though he wasn't in prison for sex offense and never did a time for it. And that was really, really devastating. Anyway, with the help of Linda Schaefer, I believe, and Alan Ellis, possibly, Carmine, they stopped his transfer. So that was in the March of 2008. Now, there were times, okay, so Kazi's gone 6 months, I guess. He was about a year and a half short. So Kazi's gone for some time, and that would, other guys would come and hang around with me and Carmine. Stevie Mialakis out of New York / Maine, he would come around often. Desiderio was a lawyer out of Florida / California. He was another guy that used to hang around with us. He was an Italian guy, and he was able to sit at the table with us in the chow hall and in the Georgia Tech. Mialakis didn't live in Georgia Tech, but he came to Georgia Tech often. He was an orderly on the compound, so he'd come over. So he hung out, and if you ever hear him talk about Carmine Persico, you can believe it, because Carmine was close with Stevie, with both of us. Every Sunday, and a lot of times on Thursday, it was homemade spaghetti. Carmine made some of the best linguine and white clam sauce that I've ever tasted, and that includes on the street, and I'm Italian, and I grew up around him. Ask how you did it. Microwave stinger, and it was basically just butter, olive oil, and clams, and some seasoning that he whipped up, but nevertheless he did. And it was absolutely fabulous. Mark, that was his name, Mark Desiderio. I remember him looking at me one time, and he was a high-class guy. He was a really wealthy man. And he told me, he said, Robert, I don't know what kind of fine dining you had. And I said, not much. Most of my life's been spent in prison. And he said, I'd pay for this at a restaurant. It was that good. And it really was. There's an article in New York Magazine by Steve Fishman called Bernie Madoff Free at Last. It came out in, I forgot the date now. But there's you can see in that piece, it's a long piece, it talks about me and Carmine and our ties and things that happen and quotes that I made about Bernie and all kinds of stuff. My point being is it's well established there's a tight relationship between Carmine and I. Now, I did, at a point, looking back, I should say, Carmine was like my father figure in prison. He saw me get clean. I stopped using drugs on October the 13th, 2007 for a long period of time. Excuse me. And he was real proud of me. He knew it. I told him I was going to get off them when I got off opiates. I told him everything. I never exaggerated one bit about me, about my drug problems and alcohol and everything else. But I will say, they called Carmine, actually, I should note that most people, his close friends, call him Junior. Most people that don't like him call him the Snake. Why did they call him the Snake? I will say that I have seen some bad sides of Carmine, as everybody has bad sides. He had a lot of anxiety when it came to eating. He would really want to rush. You can't rush boiling water. You can't rush spaghetti noodles from being boiled. One of the things we got into it. So I had a position. My position in the Joey Testacazzi Carmine circle was that I cooked the spaghetti noodles. Excuse me. I cooked the spaghetti noodles. And after those guys left, I cooked the spaghetti noodles. I held the stinger, so the contraband, washed the dishes. Carmine washed the dishes sometimes, but yeah, so Carmine did the major cooking. He would buy all the stuff. He wouldn't let you buy anything. You went to commissary, he'd say, keep that for yourself. So he sported that. Whoever was in his car and his table, he carried you. So one time he went off on me about spaghetti noodles being overcooked. They call it al dente. So you got to pull it off in about 7.5 minutes. Throw cold water on it if you can. And I actually run it to 10 and it got mushy and he threw a freaking fit. And, I took it. I took that one. And, he didn't do it in front of people or nothing like that. It would have been a different story. I respect my elders. And I never cared about Carmine Persico's position as the head of the family. What I did care about was the knowledge he had and the history that was within that man. And I'm not talking mob history. He knew all about New York. He was really proud to be a New Yorker. He told a lot of stories about New York, about growing up in New York. And he was just a plethora, I guess, of history. That's what I loved about him. And of course, again, respecting your elders, that's pretty, that was instilled in me as a child. My cousins watch this, they'll concur. So yeah, it was. So another time I washed the dishes and I used soap. You're not allowed to use soap when you wash dishes if you're in Carmine's car because soap leaves a bad taste in the dishes. You have to do paper, toilet paper. You have to wipe out the oil, toilet paper, and you just rinse it out. You never do anything. Be careful. Well, he's dead now, but I was going to say be careful around him. But that, and I dropped his spoon in the sink, and I had the nerve to wash it and give it back to him. It actually was a slop sink. It's where people did the laundry, spit, threw mop water out, and it dropped. So yeah, he had a point. It was challenging after a while because I had my own thing going. I mean, I was writing. I was a law clerk. I had my own life, and you really can't have your own life when you're part of something whether that's a dirty white boy gang or if you're part of. And I was a part of Carmine's life, the Persico table, and I'll say the Persico table because he was there since 2005, and he's the one that put a claim to it, and he stood by it. So anybody, the Carmine and crew. And like I said, for a while, there's Mark Desiderio. I'm trying to think of the other people that were there when Mark was there. Oh, there was, what's the kid from DC's name? He's a mixed race kid, but he hung around there. Josie, Carmine called him. He was able to sit at the table, hung out with us. But anytime you're part of something, you don't have your own, you get a schedule. My schedule every day with Carmine was we watched the news from 5 o'clock and then we stayed up till like 11:30. The doors didn't lock there and you could stay up late. So it was frustrating at times. And, he had his issues. I had my issues. People do. And it's not always pleasant to be around each other and you can't really escape. And he would sense that, I'd stay out on the yard longer than I wanted to just because to piss him off because he'd made me mad about something little. The worst thing that ever happened, excuse me, I'm sorry. If my wife edits the video, these coughs will be out. We'll see what she's going to do tonight. One night, so I have the bad habit. Matter of fact, my wife said this to me tonight. I say huh a lot. So when somebody says something to me, I'll say huh. And what happens is I don't have a hearing problem. I've got this voice inside of my head that talks to me. So when somebody says something, this voice is talking to me and I have to stop it and say, huh? Like what? Because like there's literally something in my head talking to me. Not in an audio hallucination way, but it's just, that's what happens. As a child, my mom thought I was hard of hearing and brought me to the doctors. And the doctors said, no, this guy's hearing's fine. Side note, I do have 50% hearing loss in one ear from a fight. So I had my headphones on, and Carmine had his boxers on, and he had a towel because he was waiting in line for a shower. And I had my headphones on, and he'd said something to me. And I didn't hear him, and he was in one of his moods. And he went to snatch the headphone off my ear. So I'm to the side, I'm watching TV, I got my feet kicked up. I think I actually had the paper. I used to read, I had a really big political awakening during that time. Being really big into politics that time. And he grabbed and went to snatch the headphone off my ear. And I caught him out of the side of my eye right when he snatched it. And I snatched his hand and I looked at him and I said, don't you ever try to snatch headphones off my hands again. It surprised me and it shocked him. It was instinctual. It was, he was in a mood. I was able to tolerate a lot of as were a lot of other people. And don't get me wrong, when I say this, I don't want everybody ever thinking it. And I would tell you, it's not like I was this bitch by no means. And there's a lot of guys that do go there and play the do boy role. So I wasn't the do boy. I did a lot of things. I was with him a lot because of my age. I helped him a lot, whatever. But he loved his do boys. And usually the do boys, they weren't full timers at his tables or nothing like that. They were guys that were on his nutsack because of who he was, or they thought they can get some money off him. Can't, by the way. If you were to do business with him, you might be able to make some money off stamps. But no, he wasn't getting extorted or nothing like that. I was going to say, I've heard a story, but I'm not going to go there about Lompoc. So anyway, there was something, we were just frustrated. Now, another time it boiled over, Carmine had false teeth. He had a top and bottom. And he took them out a lot because they bothered him. So he kept them in his back pocket usually. As far as hygiene goes, so let me say this. He's an old school Italian guy, okay? I had John Conza was his celly, and he came out one time to tell me to make sure I didn't eat the sauce that day because Carmine shit and didn't wash his hands, and then went he went right from going to the bathroom, wiping his ass, and started playing in the sauce. And we used to get whole tomatoes and he'd smash them up with his hands. And that day, I purposely had John come and eat. John wouldn't say no to him. So, yeah. God, the Persico family, you guys ever see this? This is a lot of older men are like that, okay? This isn't about Carmine in general. A lot of older guys are like that. So he took a shower every day, bar soap, no wash, bar soap. And, his teeth, he had these old teeth. And they're just stained yellow. And I told him, you can get some bleach. It comes right off. To keep them bleached for a night, that he wouldn't do it. So I got real frustrated one night. Now, at this time, there was a lot of guys that were drinking in Georgia Tech. I said in one of my videos, we didn't get shut down for almost 3 years, and we did it. So this is one night. So I was clean. I told you for 3 years, 7 months, whatever days. But I did drink. I drank twice for sure. That one time after I had surgery done. That's what it was. It was the night that I had surgery, I'm pretty sure. And it was Blake, a guy named Blake out of Nashville, Tennessee. Mike Conza. Joshua along with. I'm putting names out there because, and what was Josh's name? The guy with the wheelchair. Anyway, everybody, you can get drunk. You can stay up and party your ass off. This guy just stay out and drink, smoke. I mean, just all night long because the guards wouldn't come and do walks. But you knew who was walking. So I drank one night. And I was so mad that, number one, there's no cameras in there. And me and Carmine, I got into it. And I swear I was like plotting on him, because I was drunk and I was real frustrated. And we were going to take his teeth. And at that time, somebody was going to get out. One of the guys were getting out, and then we're going to sell him to the mob museum because it has DNA on it. But that's a true story. And I just named those guys there because they can back it up if anybody ever wanted to find out if that was... It was really a close issue. Carmine almost lost his teeth. And yeah, so there's a couple other things that, but I'm not going to... Anyway, yeah. And that was an incident. So, but otherwise, yeah. So, what else? Okay. He hated being called Pops. Junior, you know, he told me before I can call him Junior. That means he had, he cared about me, liked him. I didn't. I called him Carmine. That's just how I was introduced. That's what I stayed with. I'm not from the mob thing, so that's what I felt. I felt that was for those guys to do, and not me. So I will tell you something that sticks out, and it's actually part of history. This is a pretty big deal, and that is the day Carmine Persico met Bernie Madoff. There's some people now that I've talked to that really don't even know who Bernie was, and I can't believe it because of the news attention. If you don't know who Bernie Madoff was, please Google it. I'm not going to go there. But Bernie Madoff was perhaps the biggest celebrity inmate, prisoner, convict, whatever you want to... you can say Bernie was a convict to a certain point for a while when I was there. Anyway. He came in, he's from New York, high-profile case, cameras, helicopters all over the prison trying to catch a glimpse of him. And Carmine was too proud to go introduce himself. That's not him. He wanted Bernie to come to him. And that's just how he was. So we were in the hospital one day. We had medical call-outs. That means you have to go to medical for an appointment. And in walks Bernie. And Bernie was already, I heard, and I was already friends with Bernie by that time. Bernie was looking to introduce himself to Carmine. And it was really a trip to see Bernie walk up to Carmine and say, "Hello, Mr. Persico. My name's Bernie Madoff," you know. And it was me and Eddie, Eddie was from North Carolina. We were both sitting right there. I remember Eddie's jaw just dropped, and he said, "Man," he's North Carolina from the hills. He said, "Man, Rob, that was like historic." Excuse me. And it totally was. It really was. It was a trip. And side note, they were going to let me, those two were going to take a photo with me. For Carmine to take a photo with anybody is a pretty big deal. It got kiboshed. Bernie Madoff, there's people that were trying to sell photos. Inside Edition was offering like 10 grand. And they stopped the photographs. So that was why I wasn't able to take a photo with those two. I got a photo with Tommy Patera, Tommy Karate. He didn't take photos with people either, but I'll put that up one day. Anyway, so the other guy is a good friend, good friend of mine, and great guy in prison. So that, now, Carmine told me a lot about his personal life. And what I mean by personal life, again, I'm going to stay away from the mob story stuff. He didn't go there on stories. If I asked him questions, things on TV, I will say Michael Francese, I'm sorry, I can't. I respect his YouTube stuff and a lot of stuff, a lot of the work he's done. Just broke his heart leaving the mob. Carmine would swear that Michael was ratted on it. Ratted was a big reason the mob kept falling. He blamed John Gotti first, and I'll put that out there. He said John Gotti was the reason the mob was being destroyed. Carmine Persico hated John Gotti. I think there's a lot of people in both families that know that, and it's no secret that if those two would have been on the street, one of them would have died. That's not just coming from Carmine, or not. That's not coming from Carmine, or didn't. I know Gambino's as well. They didn't see eye to eye, especially about the hit on Big Paul. So Carmine would tell me stories, or if I'd ask him stuff like that, there are things that he told me, that I wouldn't say, and I say quite a bit. I say names and stuff like that if I think it's necessary. But he talked about his family a lot, and his daughters. You got Gina and Teddy, Allie Boy, Michael and the young one, what's her, Gina, not Gina. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, God, I know. He had his favorite grandchild was just because he was the baby, was little Carmine. That's his youngest daughter's kid. Yeah, so, I should say that I just said his favorite grandchild. And you know what, guys, that's not, I'll say this. So he had one that her name's Jackie, called him Jackarack. I think he just loves saying the name, but he talked about her a lot. Something he was disappointed with, talked about those two. The little boy, like I said, little Carmine, he was named after him. That's his youngest daughter's kid. He just adored that little boy and loved every time he came to visit. He liked when they all came to visit. Now, there was rumors that he was conducting business while he was in Butner. Never said, he never told me that he was. Never admitted to being actively involved in the mob. Still, never talked about it. I did know before Carmine was having visits, because I can see he would sit at the table and he would talk to himself and hold court. So in his mind, there was people around him. He's telling them, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do. And before his visits that I knew were important, that's what he would do. And, I'd heard him talking, he was 78, or at the time when I left, 78, 79. And, he was getting slippery upstairs, but I mean, he was older. And you can see, so I know for a fact it was bothering the things were falling apart, okay? In gangland. So I know that. That's a fact. But so he had issues within his family, and he'd never said I'm getting a visit tomorrow or this and that. Sometimes, occasionally, but I would know. And I would know, especially when some guys with some old guys his age would come up out of Florida and stuff like that. So, was he holding, they say he was doing it in the visitation room. I don't have any knowledge of that. There was reports that have come out since I've read about it. So anyway, what else? I'm going to look back on this. There's so much about Carmine. Man, I spent 3.5 years with this guy. So, on the night of, let me back up. I'm sorry. That's what's getting me. There's a reporter out there who runs Gangland, Jerry Capici. And Carmine didn't talk to reporters. Like I said, he was getting ready to let me do a book. There was a reason why he wasn't at the time. I actually told a journalist that I became friends with named Steve Fishman out of New York. I don't know, Steve and he also had information on Giuliani that he was going to give to me if Giuliani ran for president to put out in the media. I became a professional. Well, I wasn't writing for any professional, but I was writing at that time. I was doing blogs, and he really encouraged it and loved that I was writing, and he was trying to give me topics to write about. And he always said, what to write about, but he always talked about Jerry. He said he respected him as a reporter, but he didn't talk to reporters. The only one he ever wanted to talk to, I think he wanted to do, he told Barbara Walters or 2020 or somebody that he would do, he would go on 2020 or one of those shows, 60 Minutes, I think, if he was able to sit down with Giuliani and have a debate. Giuliani went after the mob. He hated Giuliani. Giuliani had extra protection because Persico had threatened his life. He hated Giuliani, okay? He absolutely hated with a passion. Well, the two people I can say that he couldn't stand that made him just seethe inside would be Michael Francesi. I hope I know I'm not saying it right. And Giuliani. Those were the two people that just made his blood boil. If there was a history show and it had Michael on there, if they'd seen Giuliani, he would just get sick. He's had me turn the TV before, or ask somebody else to turn the TV before if Michael showed up on there. He didn't say rat. He'd scum. He'd say, call him a piece of shit. I heard there's reports that he tore up a book when he found out Mike wrote the book, and threw it against the wall. He never told me about that, but I'm sure he did, because I saw what happened when Gas Pipe wrote a book. By the way, mob people, he says that he didn't know Gas Pipe. Gas Pipe lied a lot. So anyway, that's a whole different issue. What else? So right around Christmas 2010, he gets a card in the mail, and it's from Jerry, the reporter for Gangland. And he looks at me and he says, Robert, this guy doesn't write me. He's tried to write me before. Something bad's about to happen. I said, what do you mean? He said, every time something bad's about to happen, I get letters and stuff from reporters, and something really bad's about to happen because this guy's writing me. He also told me that he had like a super amount of respect for this guy. One of the reasons because he stayed away from the wife and the kids and the family when in his reporting. He said he had information that could have hurt his marriage, and that he didn't put it out there, and he was grateful for that. Also, that reporter liked Carmine's wife. I believe the wife knew him, and he was real grateful for that. So he got the card, and he said, you know what? I'm going to write him back. And he wrote him back, and I proofread the letter. He asked me if it was okay. And he put it in the mailbox. He sat back down, and he said, I'm telling you, something really, really bad's about to happen. Now, boom, I find out that I'm getting transferred. I'm being transferred to the Deuce because this guy that had separation on me was getting transferred to the Butner 1, where I was at to take the drug program. They didn't have the drug program at the 2 at the time. So my world just upended over, in a matter of seconds. And I took off. I was actually transferred to, and that's just shackled and chained. Take a bus ride up the street, up the hill, and that's getting sent to the Deuce. I went up there. That was January 20th. I was there hours. I look at the news that night. The biggest mob indictment in history came down, and a bunch of them were in his family, one of them being his son-in-law. And I just kept hearing his voice. Something really, really bad's about to happen because that reporter wrote. And yeah, so his instincts were spot on still. Boy, is that all? I'm trying to think. Let's see what my wife does with this editing, because I know what's going to happen. As soon as I push this and get ready, this is Carmine Persico. This really is the last real mob boss. And I don't care. I've seen books that said the last real that. I can't stress to you how important in mob history this man really was. Now, you got the Gallo Wars. The hit on... It's got the barbershop hit on Anastasia. They said Carmine was involved in that. There's been lots of things back and forth on that one over the years. Anyway, so what else? The Gallo Wars. When they was in the bar, and he got one of the Gallo brothers, and they were choking him out and killing him. And he said, "Don't, Carmine, don't." That's been a movie, so I can confirm that one. He'll say that to not just his close people, but he laughs about that because that was so well known. Had shootouts with cops. Told me about getting their stories. When he got shot at, they thought he was killed. Jerry, what was his underboss? Ruggieri. Oh boy, I was at Leavenworth with that guy too. Oh, what? This is why I need the editing done, so I can get all this just right. Because I'm on the fly when I do these videos right now. Jerry Ruggieri, is that what it's? Yeah, Jerry. He talked about Jerry a lot. Mac was his sidekick. Talked about times I went to Puerto Rico. They used to party a lot in Puerto Rico. The stuff with the Godfather movies. So he was one of them that went to watch the movie when it was getting approved through the mob guys. There was a lot of heat about that movie. They didn't want it to come out. Now, he loved the movie itself. He did. He said it was well put together. He liked it. you know, when you watch movies like that, especially for him, and me being Italian, growing up around grandparents that were not mob or nothing like that, but the food, the culture, you know, it hits home. So that's what he really liked about it too. Um, yeah, all in all, you know, like I said, I looked back and didn't realize it much then, but this guy, he really was like a dad to me in prison. He really, really was there for me, you know, times I get down. And I must add, in August of 2010, and this is months before I was transferred, a girl from Spain wrote me. We started emailing, and in December, I'm sorry, it was January the 1st, 2011. I woke up and I found out that Marta, who's now my wife and sitting in the other room waiting for me, had wrote me an email exactly at 12 o'clock on New Year's in Spain. There were 6 hours difference. And he looked at her and he says, "You're going to marry this girl." Hey, so when we got engaged, I wrote him. I was in contact with him while I was in a different prison. You know, I was supposed to be, but hey, I'm out now and I can say that. Yeah, he was tickled to death. Yeah, and he knew it. He said this girl's she's gonna come here. As a matter of fact, they had a limousine company in the family, and he offered to put her up, get her a free hotel. They were gonna give her the whole. He was gonna have his family take all the way care of her. Okay, so yeah, I was gonna stop in here. So Carmine died. Infection in the leg is, from what I understand, I think that's what the reports were. So he made it to his mid 80s, and do I believe, you know, his crime? Do I believe he should have went out? Of course. So here's the deal. He was in his 80s. He, you know, his dream was to go and be with his family. He wanted to live up on the farm. They had a farm. I think that they were in the process of selling it, I believe, in 2010 or 11. I don't know what's happened to it. Well, I seen that one of his boys, Michael, by the way, is the brains in the family with the money. Michael did all the finance for them, and I'm not talking about mob family. I'm talking about Carmine's family. It was regular family. He was the brains, and Carmine said he did some bad investments and he was going to lose the farm. I don't know what happened. That farm was everything to him. He talked about that a lot. That's what he had envisioned. That's what he had in his head. Going to that farm, living his life out on that farm. Now, you see that there's a lot of old mob guys we've heard get arrested, some in their 90s and stuff like that. You know, would shit have hit the fan when Carmine got out? Probably. You know, probably. Maybe somebody would have came and got him because he's old and he was set in old ways. And in any kind of a family or organization or a gang or a company or a corporation, you need changes, and you got to keep changing. And he was dead set in old ways. I do remember him thinking about murder, and just he couldn't get his head wrapped around how you just can't get away with it anymore. He was like, he would try. I'm not saying he had plotted. We watch crime shows a lot, you know, Dateline, 2020, and he'd just go, "Robert, you know, there's no way to get away with it anymore," you know, because of cameras, because of cell phones, because of DNA. He didn't believe in fingerprints. Thought that was shit and ballistics. But yeah, it used to just drive him crazy about how you just can't. What's a guy to do anymore? You can't even murder somebody. I mean, you know, some people that'd be appalling and freaking scary to me. It was just funny, you know, because I mean, he was like, seriously, like, what are you gonna do? How do you even kill these guys anymore? You know. So, yeah. That's what his plans were. That's what he wanted. That's what he dreamed of. He had a beautiful wife. Boy, I don't know if you guys ever seen her. She's really pretty girl. Stayed with him all these years. I don't know how, but she did. Beautiful home. Guys would come to prison and tell me about it. You know, and he was real proud of it. One of the neatest things, you know, I'm gonna say this, and I'm rambling, but I'm going down memory lane. He got some pictures from one of his family members of him as a child, and I'm talking about a baby. Photos from when he's like 5 and 8. When you should have seen the streets of New York, there was dirt and and horses and horse crapping in the streets were dirt. It was fire hydrants with water in the dirt, and Yeah, it was crazy. Gardens, gardens where, there's big gardens and stuff like that. And those are the times that were really super neat. That was awesome. I wish I can see those pictures again. I wish I would have took them all in and paid attention a little bit more, because when he showed me, I was actually, I think I was writing something about Bernie Madoff. I was in, when Bernie came, my life changed, because the news media people all over me because of Bernie. And I just wish I would have took time to remember those pictures a little bit more, because he, if Carmine shows you something like that, that's very personal. That means he means something to him. And I know that I meant something to him, because on the last day, when they called me in for transfer, yeah, he gave me a big old hug and he cried, and that's, wow, can't believe it's making me so anyway, yeah, it was something, man. He said, Robert Russell, you're a really good man. I'm so glad I met you. And he cried, he said, I'm gonna miss you, Terry. He didn't say, I'm gonna miss you. There's not many like you. I mean, just real complimentary towards me, man. Made me feel good. And like I said, there were some tough times with him because of his age, his ways. He's used to being the guy, and I respect elders, but not certain things. Anyway, yeah, and I miss him. I wish that at the very least I would have been able to get out and send him a letter and send him some photos and stuff like that. But yeah, man. Yeah, there's a guy, whatever. So anyway, that's my deal with Carmine Persico. Now, tomorrow, I don't know if I can get the paper either. Tomorrow it's going to be about Joey Testa. Let's see if I can get it. Anyway, that's what we're going to do tomorrow. And it's late on a Monday night. This is not going to I'm going to go post this right now. Well, I'm going to see if my wife can edit this. We're going to see that. This is almost run an hour. And hope you guys enjoyed this, as I enjoyed my time with Carmine Persico. Good night.